the Earth is going through the age of Pisces. Now, the Earth will be going through the age of Aquarius. So I believe if you study Pisces, what does Pisces mean? The symbolism behind Pisces. It's the two fish going in different directions. But if you look at the symbolism, they're half circles. Half circles represent souls, the higher soul, the lower soul, the separation of soul. Then the soul, there's a line in the middle. That line's supposed to represent matter. And we're supposed to merge, unify the two separated souls through matter, which is Earth. We're supposed to find union in this.
Yeah.
So I think that separation created this opportunity for manipulation. It's like you separate a child from its mother or parent, you can manipulate and brainwash.
Hi, everyone. Today, I expect that we are going to be talking about the nature of reality, what this world is, how it began, or perhaps how it keeps beginning and ending, and how we're surrounded by ancient symbols, codes, and texts that carry this information, but we have forgotten and ignored. In particular, I think we will be looking into astrology, or I'm pretty certain that we will be looking into astrology in particular. Welcome to the podcast, Isaac Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Yeah.
It's my pleasure to have you. It's going to be super interesting. You've done some really fascinating research around, as I said, astrology, but also other stuff. And we're going to jump into that soon. And we're going to talk about something called Sidereal astrology, which many might not be very familiar with. But before that, tell us more about your journey, your background, and how your interest started in ancient knowledge and astrology and things like that.
That's a good question to open up with. Yeah. Well, basically, I've been a spirit seeker, but I started out with this particular journey of the stars as with astronomy, because I had a certain experience with looking up to the sky and listening and hearing messages from the sky. So what I did is I bought a telescope, and I got fascinated with astrophotography. So I would spend countless nights under the stars observing. And then it was at that point I noticed, because I was following all of the mystic ways as well, and I was noticing a lot of the online astrology forecasts were putting the moon or the planets in different signs than what I was observing. Yeah. So that's when I looked into it.
Sorry, were you formally an astronomer, or were you just doing this, on the side, or?
Yeah, it was. It's called amateur astronomy, the backyard astronomer. Okay. So, but I had astrophotography cameras, and I was like seriously involved in this. Like, yeah, and yeah. So anyway, so I noticed that the alignment wasn't there, and when I asked a friend, well, I was asking astrologers, because I said, "Hey, have you guys been looking through your telescopes and seeing the misalignment?" And I noticed astrologers are like, "Well, we don't look up at the sky, and we don't have telescopes." And it just threw my brain off for a minute, because I had the image of astrologers being astronomers, like the ancient days when you would see the old images of in the Renaissance times, when you would see an astrologer looking up in the sky with a chart in his hand and matching it up.
Yeah,
as above, so below. So that took me for surprise. And then as I kept going, I realized that tropical astrology, which is the mainstream astrology, is not aligned with the stars.
Right.
So
yeah. So let's dive into that directly now, then, because as you say, tropical astrology. I mean, most people are at least superficially familiar with astrology in general, and in the West, that almost always means that they're familiar with tropical astrology. And you adhere to what is called sidereal astrology, which one might actually translate to star astrology, which might sound a bit strange, because isn't all astrology about the stars? Exactly. Well, it turns out that maybe not exactly, because those of you in the audience here who listened to the conversation that I had with John Lash a few episodes back, realize we had a conversation about the zodiacal ages, realize that tropical astrology has, in fact, basically nothing to do with the stars, with the exception of the sun, of course, which is a star, but it's technically considered as one of the planets in the tropical system. So explain more now, Isaac. What is sidereal astrology, and how does it differ from tropical astrology that most of us are familiar with?
Yeah, right. All right. Well, it's basic fact that anyone can just look up instantly. It's called precession of the equinox, and from precession of the equinox is where we get the great ages. So we've all heard of the term dawning on the age of Aquarius, but no one asks, well, how does that happen? Well, it's through precession. Precession is the movement that we make through the zodiac. We go backwards through the zodiac 1 degree every 72 years. And the way the ancients would tell time in the great year, it's called the great year, or right? You would look to the east on the spring equinox, and that's your clock. That's your reckoning. That's the locking time. And that tells you the age that you're in. We're in the age of Pisces. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. And that being because also the signs, the real constellations that I use the true sizes. They're different sizes. So Pisces is huge. So we have a little bit more time in the age of Pisces. But anyway, let's stay on the precession. So precession moves us back 1 degree every 72 years. So since the beginning of the age of Pisces, we've precessed 24 degrees backwards in the zodiac, right? So tropical astrology still used the 0 point of the zodiac, the beginning, at that point of 2,000 years ago. Whereas sidereal, we are moving and we're calculating the movements, and we're moving with the 1 degree every 72 years. So now when you look at a chart and you look at the sky, the tropical chart is out of alignment with the sky at 24 degrees. So
yeah,
that's the issue we have.
Yeah, that's an issue, and we learned a lot about that from John Lash, and I have also had my own ideas about the differences here. And
Right.
But let me ask you: is sidereal astrology the same thing as Vedic astrology?
Yeah, well, Vedic is a different system, but the sidereal is just basically it's like the movement mechanism that we calculate.
That's
So
why
they
it's called
use
that. Yeah. Okay.
yeah they use that mechanism in their calculations as well, meaning star time. They're calculating star time. The one thing with Vedic that's still slightly off with the true sky is that they still use an even 30 degrees.
Yeah.
I don't use an even 30 degrees. I use
And they also put a lot of focus on the nodes of the moon, and the nodes of the moon, as we know, is not an actual planet. It's just a point in space.
Exactly.
In space.
An energetic crossing between the
energetic crossing. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also to top it off, I use the 13th zodiac sign, which we can get into later as well.
Yeah. I'd love to do that. That's perhaps the I don't know, the focal point of this conversation. We'll see.
But it's really important, actually. Yeah,
it's very important. But it's good to start off with this sidereal astrology and versus tropical astrology thing, because I mean, just to get to the core of it, I think what people are wondering about is that they have learned that those who are familiar with astrology, that certain signs are associated with certain qualities and traits and personality traits, and so. I don't know what your opinion about this is, but would you say that using sidereal astrology, which in your view is true astrology, means that we are actually not born in the sign that we think we are born in a completely different sign? And does that then also entail that we actually are different, have different personalities than we have thought we had, which is a bit bizarre to think? But is that your opinion about this?
Wow. Well, this is like a really good question. The basic, simplest question, but this is pretty deep.
Well, this is the crux of the whole thing.
Exactly.
For most people.
So, so first of all, people will. So I always say this to people because there's a thing called I made up a term for this called astrology collapse disorder. Because when people say, you say, no, it's your different sign, they lose their meaning in life. It's
yeah.
like, wait, but I'm supposed to be a Gemini in that. So I always say, okay, here's from what my findings, and I'll talk about my findings, is tropical keeps you human, sidereal makes you celestial. So,
That's beautiful.
right, so the tropical system puts you, because I'm under the belief system, the more and more I researched, is that there's a certain element of the zodiac that's actually a trap on Earth to keep you cycling through the samsara. So the more and more I look at it, that's where we are. So what happens is, since we have the power of manifestation through our mental impressions, through our visions and words, if we cast out a false zodiac belt that keeps us in the samsara loop, we would probably continue longer than if we were studying the sidereal astrology belt, because that's the true alignment with the stars. And that is the way we can break the karmic cycle of samsara on Earth and hopefully land on the 8th sphere or the 9th sphere. That's the sphere of the stars or the sphere of the angels. So this is what I found, right? So then when you keep on looking first, well, who is in charge of astrology? What happened to the history of astrology? And who's in charge of astrology now? And so I'll try to do this in one swoop. I found that the church, the controlled religion that we subscribe to, they're the ones that crucified us as astrologers back in the ancient days. But then they gave us astrology back, and they said, sure, you're no longer pagans, you can practice astrology. And they gave us back this mechanism, this tool, but now the tool is a clock, and it's broken. There's a missing mechanism in the clock, and no one's questioning it. So then you look, okay, so the church, or you want to say the Vatican or the controlled religion, is responsible for this. So I researched, well, who's in charge of all these big telescopes? Who's financing them? It's the Vatican Observatory Foundation is who's financing big astronomy, big sky observing. They control what we see in the sky. So that
not only the Vatican, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
there are other astronomers out there.
Yeah, but like they're the biggest financiers of observatories.
Okay.
So I believe, so to wrap it up, I believe that if you're casting out the false zodiac and you're subscribing to it, now you're in a false matrix, because it's a matrix, right? Everything's a matrix. So you're living by a false matrix. And if you notice, when you work with sidereal people versus tropical people, or people who are receiving tropical readings, it's very human. I don't want to say superficial, but it's very human. What's my job? My love life. Am I going to get rich? And when you work with people who are tropical, they're like, show me my deepest, darkest shadows.
You mean sidereal? Or?
Sidereal, yeah, sorry, yeah, sidereal. Sidereal is people, when you work with them, they're like, I'm ready to see it all. Show it everything to me. I need to get out of here. And then through my research in the temples of Egypt, you can see that they do travel through the Amduat, it's what's called, at the end of their life. It's the sea of stars. And there's a lot of symbolism that show 12 snakes, or a snake that's coiled 12 times. So I connected that instantly with, it's called the serpent of chaos. So the serpent of chaos is the chaos of the 12 zodiac signs that are not in alignment. So they're all bound up. They're not in cosmic alignment. And always at the end, you want to go through the Ma'at, the Hall of Truths, to then be able to go back to the stars with Isis and Osiris. So this is telling me that you want to understand navigating the stars.
Mm.
We don't want to.
Truly fascinating. And yeah, I mean, opens up new doors here.
Yeah.
And we're going to, as we said, go deeper into the 13th sign and what that may entail for the reaching the the higher levels of astrology. But to back up a little bit, I mean, I don't know if you have practiced tropical astrology to any extent before you started delving into this, but I mean, I've been interested in tropical astrology since I was a kid, and I haven't been, I mean, not a professional reader or anything, but I've studied it sufficiently, both within myself, my own life, and my friends and my families and close people. And I mean, as far as I can tell, it's pretty accurate. But as you say, it's concerning these very mundane issues that you have in life, your love life, your money, your career, your things like that. But because I mean, of course, it could be that I've been fooling myself all my life, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like astrology has been a better guide for me to understand why people are who they are and what they are, and not just the sun signs, of course, because there are so many aspects of a chart, than psychology or behavioral science has been to me, to understand why people are behave like they do. So could it be, I'm sorry, long question here, or long rant, but when I spoke with John Lash, we kind of both, I think, agreed on that there seems to be two systems, or he said this very clearly, because he's also said that he'd been using tropical astrology for a long time, and he says it works, but nobody knows why it works, but it does work, but it has nothing to do with the stars. So the star system, or the star model, sidereal in this case, is a different model, and they're not actually, I mean, they're related in some way, but maybe it's the higher octave and the lower octave of a thing. And the lower octave, being tropical astrology, does work. It has a lot to do with the planets, not very much to do with the stars, but we call these the 30-degree sectors, Leo, Pisces, Taurus, and all these, because that's where the more or less the constellations were when this started being used back then 2,000 years ago. But it's just names for those sectors. Do you follow my drift? Do you agree?
Yeah. I do follow your drift. Yeah, I mean, what I always come up with is that there's a level of I believe we're living under I call it the false matrix, but I believe we're living under a matrix, and the way it works is we all have to agree. So, like right now, you have a sun behind your head.
I
can call that a disk, and we can be out of agreement. So, but when we're in agreement, things work so much better. We get through our eight hours of the working day, and it just flows. And then that's harmony in this matrix. And there's a certain level of comfort in that. And there's a certain level of discomfort in awakening out of this matrix. And I, for one, I'm on that level. And I travel a lot. I live aboard a sailboat. I'm in a caravan. I'm always moving. Sometimes I don't find my clothes. Like there's a certain level of when you're searching for the truth, you're untethered. So I believe that tropical system is a way to tether everyone into a system to keep you under a nice, comfortable dome. And if you follow the system, everything stays in harmony. And who controls the system is what worries me. Who's in charge of the system that we're trying to maintain a level playing, a dome? That's where I get worried.
Yeah.
Which is why I encourage everyone to look outside of this false matrix of the tropical.
So then we, of course, come to the 13th sign here. You featured in the documentary Code 12 by Lisa Tittle. It's not freely available, I think.
You can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
And maybe I'll share a link. We're gonna do a free. It's gonna be available free for 2 days in September.
Okay. Good.
So I can get you that link, and people can sign up for that.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes, of course.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, you say there. I've only seen the trailer then, but you say there that and you did say it before here also. The zodiac is actually a clock, and right now that clock is broken. Can't read it. So what do you mean by that? Is it like there is a way to make it work again, and is that the secret behind that? The 13th sign?
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you a little bit, and I'll go
Ophiuchus,
backwards a bit.
Ophiuchus,
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus.
Yeah.
Sorry, the 13th sign,
Yeah.
Ophiuchus.
So, and your viewers can just do this quick research real quick. Ophiuchus, it goes back to Asclepius of ancient Greece. Asclepius goes back to Imhotep of ancient Egypt. They all have the same. They all have the same archetype energy. They're gods of medicine, gods of resurrection. But here's what I found really interesting, which is how I found you and John Lash, is that it's not the 13th sign and fighting, because a lot of people fight about there's no 13th sign, there's only 12 signs, but where the 13th sign is what's most important. It's in the galactic center.
Yeah.
Now, my research in all of the ancient cultures show that that center, that place in the sky, is where divinity comes from. The divine teachers. So you got Quetzalcoatl, you got Viracocha. The Maya call this place of the sky Shibaba, the crossing of two worlds. So you have then two things that I found lately, which is how I found you, is the pleroma, which is the Gnostic in the Gnostic temple.
Yeah, that's also the galactic center in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is where Christos and Sophia come from.
Yeah,
and I relate
connection to the Gnostic tradition there.
Exactly. Yeah, the Gnostics say Sophia and Christos come from pleroma. So I'm like, where is this pleroma? I look it up. It's in the galactic center. Right. So, and it's called the crossing. It's related to a cross. And I actually have the 13 zodiac sign tattooed on my hand. If you look here, he's holding a cross in his hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's a cross. And the Maya call it Shibaba. It's the crossing. And there literally is another galaxy crossing us at that point. And there's a pulsar there called SGRA, Sagittarius A.
Yes, because I mean, in tropical astrology, if you, I mean, they also talk about the galactic center sometimes, astrologers, but then they say that it's at, I think, 26 Sagittarius, 26 Sagittarius or something like that, in the tropical system.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So yeah. So where it is, you have the Milky Way galaxy, and you have Scorpio here, Ophiuchus right on top, and then right next to it is Sagittarius. But there's actually a galaxy merging with our galaxy at that point. So now we say our ancients come from there, divinity comes from there, but now there's a galaxy that's breathing in and out of our galaxy at that same point. So could it be that we have a connection to this other world? That's Shibaba, right? So then I'm explaining this story again. I'm at a full moon gathering or whatever it was, and this guy asked me about the 13 zodiac sign, and I said, well, what I'm finding is all the ancient religions that have any type of connection with the stars point to this place as where divinity comes from. And he goes, well, I belong to a church called the Latter-day Saints, and we have a star called Kolob. And I said, without even looking, I'm going to guarantee you this star Kolob is going to be in the galactic center. He said, we call this star the seat of divinity. And I said, I'm going to show you 2 seconds. I looked up Kolob. There you go. Sagittarius A, it's in the galactic center. So all religions, all star religions, ancient religions point to this part of the sky as divinity. So this is my point. This is where our true Christ, Christos, Sophia come from. This is where our teachers come from, divinity. We have to pay attention to that part of the sky. That's why 13th is taboo. That's why we're so afraid of snakes. The whole story of Adam and Eve. The snake gives us an apple and poisons us. And
sorry, where does the snake come in here?
The story of Adam and Eve, where the snake gives the apple to Eve. And then we're supposed to be in sin because of that apple.
Yeah, but the symbolism of the snake here in connection with the galactic center and all that.
Oh, sorry. So Ophiuchus is known as the serpent-bearer.
Yes. Good. Yeah. Good.
Sorry, I forgot that part.
Serpent-bearer. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, maybe that's easier for people to remember. The snake bearer or the serpent bearer. Yeah, that's good.
Right. And if you look at these the images of all the ancient cultures, there's always some type of winged serpent. Like in Maya, it's the plumed serpent.
Yeah.
Kukulkan, the feathered
Yeah.
serpent.
Yes,
And there's
I've
always
got
a staff. Even our modern day medicine symbol is a staff with the two serpents around it. That's literally the symbol of Ophiuchus, Asclepius, Imhotep. They all have that same rod with the snakes.
boiling
So
7 times around the rod, is it?
exactly, 7 times
Because of the 7.
chakras.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
if you
heard you
notice,
talk about that. That's fascinating.
yeah, I even went as far as to look at the what's controlling us, the cube of Saturn related to the cube of Mecca, right? So we know where the cube of Mecca is this black square. They walk around it 7 times counterclockwise.
Right.
So
Right.
that to me is weaving disharmony, or weaving karmic, instilling karmic debt. So we don't see these things, and yet it's the biggest religious Hajj. It's the Hajj of the Muslim tradition, right? You have to
Yeah.
make this pilgrimage to this
Yeah.
cube to walk around it 7 times, counterclockwise. Because there's another system. If you study, I studied a lot of ancient mythology. So the weaving mother is another. That's a whole other topic. Weaving matter into creation. That's the Virgo story. That's the Mary story. So I studied how the ancients weave, and when they weave counterclockwise, it's to create disharmony. When they weave clockwise, it's to create harmony.
Hmm.
You look at your zodiac. If you look at your horoscope, your chart, the house system is counterclockwise. So that's another thing that most people
Disharmony then.
harmony, karmic. Which maybe we're here to do that. Maybe we're here to work out this
First, do this first, this little job first, and then
exactly. Then you can come hang out with us in the stars.
Yeah.
I don't know, right? So,
But you've also explained and talked about in other interviews and stuff about what you found in Egypt. You've been to Egypt several times, I understand.
well, I was
Tell us about that, and what you can find about the 13th, the serpent-bearer in Egypt, Egyptian temples and stuff.
Okay. So right. So first of all, we all know about the Dendera zodiac. Everyone has heard of it.
Not
And
everyone, but many.
Oh, okay.
Perhaps
Yeah,
people listen to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, astrology is all, yeah. So there's the famous circular one that's upstairs. And the story of that, it's been swapped out from Napoleon, right? Napoleon took it to the Louvre. It's in the Louvre Museum. There's a lot of history there because they gave a replica back to Egypt, but it wasn't clean. It's a whole long story. It's still dark, and that's the original replica color. But the 13th zodiac sign is right there, right by the tail of Scorpio, and it's a god sitting on a throne. So the seat of divinity, the throne, and it's clearly right there. I show it in the movie Code 12. So, and a lot of people have seen that. It's circulating on the internet. That's simple. But here's what's interesting. There's another zodiac downstairs when you first enter. It's the rectangular ceiling, and it's the image of the sky goddess Nut, and she represents the stars. Her whole body is the stars, and she eats the sun and she birds it out again. So under that image is another zodiac scene. So you have all the signs of the zodiac, all in order. But then there's this one square that's not clean. So remember, all these ceilings were super dirty and dark and had soot, layers of soot on them. You couldn't see, they was just black. They cleaned the entire ceilings, all of Dendera Temple, except for this one little square. And I'm there with the camera and I'm filming, and you can see in the camera that there's an energy that's pushing my camera to not leave. Because the tour guide is taking me through, and I'm like, okay, yeah, the zodiac, okay. And then I keep my camera, you can see it goes like, and then I'm talking, looking this way, my camera is held here. And then and he goes, okay, let's go back. And I go, but wait a second, there's something pulling me here. What's going on? And he goes, well, you're into astrology. And I said, yeah. He goes, well, these are the decans. Egyptians use the decans. I said, tell me about it. And he counts them out and goes, well, that's the 13th decan there. and it's the only one that's dark. So that's the point I make.
Wow.
How is that the only one that's not clean? Because,
Exactly.
they forgot.
Somebody decided that no, that area is not supposed to be cleaned because then
Exactly.
people can see
Right. What it
get this dangerous information about the
is.
true, goal of this life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that raised my suspicion, and that I saw that. Then later on, when you go mainly to the Valley of the Kings, which is where the kings are buried, the pharaohs are buried, they have celestial ceilings and scenes of what's called the Amduat, the underworld. The pharaoh travels or traverses through the Amduat and has to battle the 12 serpents of chaos, the 12 gates. So instantly I'm like, okay, 12 gates, 12, right?
12 again.
12 again, over and over, and it's the serpent. Then I discovered an angle from the work of Gary Osborne, the 23.5 degree angle. So we can get into that later as well. But what I notice, it also shows in the artwork of like Archangel Michael when he slays the dragon. He has a rod. That rod is 23.5 degrees. In the temples, there's one scene with Ramses, I believe the second. He's stopping the serpent of chaos in the underworld, and the serpent has 12 coils, and then on one side has 8. So 8 I relate to the Scorpio realm. So he's stopping, and I measured the rod that he's stopping the snake with, and it's 23.5 degrees. That happens to be the obliquity of the Earth, but that's also the wisdom of knowing where the zodiac is. It's the tilt of the Earth versus the galactic equator gives us that angle of 23.5. And that angle gives us where the zodiac is. And that's where in the Bible, if you look at Job 38, 31, 38, 32, God is literally saying, you must know the Mazzaroth to establish your dominion on earth. Meaning Mazzaroth means the zodiac. You must know the zodiac in order to establish your sovereignty on earth. Now, that's the issue I have, is we're giving a false zodiac. What dominion are we establishing versus giving the true sky zodiac? So these are all the questions that I'm kind of rolling through life with as an astrologer, is why are we following a zodiac that's not aligned with the real zodiac in the sky? Yeah.
Or as you have pointed to here, maybe there's some kind of purpose for us to be under that matrix for some period of time to learn things or whatever. But as you say, I mean, maybe we're approaching a time when we're supposed to realize that this is not the whole reality, that we are actually trapped in this matrix.
That's what I think.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I just know that you've also mentioned so many fascinating examples of this number 12 that is recurring in many contexts in the Western tradition and many traditions, I suppose. And you have also pointed out that there is all often, or maybe always, actually a 13th entity within that system of 12. Like, I mean, I just remember now the example of the 12 disciples of Jesus, and then of course there's Jesus in the middle.
Yes, in the middle.
I mean, it is actually 13.
Yeah.
And he is the one, and then the others are 12.
Exactly.
And there are other examples, I think you have.
I mean, if you look, well, first of all, if you want to get into the movie The Matrix, the name Neo is actually I forget what you call it when you mix up words.
One. One. Yeah.
It is the one. Yeah, there's the one. And it's the same image we have of Mary with Jesus on her lap, Horus, Isis with Horus on her lap. We are all children of this primordial pleroma, space of the pleroma, of the Christos, of the Sophia, the divinity. We're all divine children. This helps us remember that.
There's also another symbolism that I'm fascinated by, because I practice it a little bit sometimes, namely tarot. And in the major arcana, number 13 is death, or death and rebirth.
Exactly, yeah.
So 13 is also very important there. I think that death and rebirth, when you think about it, sounds a little bit like some kind of portal or crossover, crossing.
It's resurrection, yeah. You see it too. Like in Egypt, you see Horus and his 12 followers, his 12 disciples. The 13 colonies of the United States. You know, there's 13 colonies.
Yeah.
The
Also,
so-called conspiracy people with the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. There's 13 levels. I believe there's 13 arrows, 13 stars.
really
With yeah, yeah. 13 is like is so important, which is
ubiquitous.
why.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so important, and it's also it's always where these this yeah well, but you're not supposed ordinary people are not supposed to realize this as you are doing now.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
supposed to
Yeah,
be covert and hidden, but it's there
yes,
somewhere. Some of these groups that have been carrying on the truth about humanity and our origins and everything, they have kept this wisdom, but kind of hidden. Like I don't know
yeah,
which groups are most important here, but you have, for instance, the Freemasons and the Knights Templar and the
hmm
Cathars and all those people.
hmm hmm yeah. I believe. Well, the good intention of that versus the nefarious intention.
Hmm.
I believe the good intention of that is just like we're children. We are children of God, so we can't we can't have everything right away. We need something on earth is telling us there's a certain level of. I mean, we're born here with amnesia. That's the agreement. We don't really remember our past lives. So we're born here with amnesia. So there's a certain level of part of this. I don't know if you want to call it the game of life or the journey of life, but we can't know it all right away. Part of it is remembering it or remembering it as we're moving along. So there's a certain part of that that's true. So you can't give everyone everything right away. But then there's something that's not so positive that the ones who have that knowledge that are supposed to give it to us, I think, are hoarding it in a certain way. And I mean, I don't know what to say about that, but I think it's
Do you have
so
any
far
theories about
out.
why that has come about?
They're too born with amnesia as well. You know, they don't have rites of passage as they. I mean, religion is sort of corrupted. Um, if we have this system that we follow sort of religiously, not religion where you go to church but follow like a rhythm, a practice. We can be initiated and go through the rites of passage to receive this information. I think we lost that. We just don't have that. We just the way the world works. I don't know, in the United States, I mean, we're born to work forever and keep a certain way of being, credit scores, and we just lost it.
Yeah, no wonder people get depressed.
Yeah, yeah.
But when do you think this happened? This
Oh, when?
forgetting of who we are and why we're here. If
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
if we maybe, I don't know if you have considered previous civilizations, for instance, if they perhaps knew what was going on, but then we forgot. What's your theory
Yeah.
on this?
Wow. I mean, I think if you scale all the way back and you look at the ages, the Earth is going through the age of Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Earth will be going through the age of Aquarius. So I believe if you study Pisces, what does Pisces mean? The symbolism behind Pisces. It's the two fish going in different directions. But if you look at the symbolism, they're half circles. Half circles represent souls, the higher soul, the lower soul, the separation of soul, the separation of spirit into soul. Then the soul, you look, the half circle, it's bound. There's a line in the middle. That line's supposed to represent matter, so physical. So we are, our spirit has split, but then the physical is holding us, and we're supposed to merge, unify the two separated souls through matter, which is earth, which is physical body, 3 dimension. We're supposed to find union in this.
Yeah.
So I think that separation created this opportunity for manipulation. It's
Okay.
like you separate a child from its mother or parent, you can manipulate and brainwash. I think somehow a negative force saw that, and I think this is where we get into the work of John Lash, where talk about the fallen goddess scenario.
Yeah.
Because that story, which I studied, which is the Pleroma, which is the 13th sign area, the galactic center, Sophia made a mistake. When she fell to earth to be with Christos, she activated what he called the alloys of earth, the metals. And the alloys then wanted to be conscious as well, but they didn't have soul. So now we have automation going on, robots, AI, trying to make this play.
Yeah.
So when you ask when did this happen, I think that's what happened. And this is
So you're with John Lash on that it might have happened when we entered the age of Pisces, or perhaps the age before that, or something like that.
I feel like the age of Pisces woke that up. It woke up the decision.
Okay.
Because you know, again, you look at the Matrix, you have a choice: blue or red pill, right? So I think it gave us the choice, and I think whatever force was there told us we could make a different choice to separate. So, or we can make a different choice to not be part of this unified field.
Mm.
Because my understanding, the unified field, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, in a way, I can understand what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Like hell is exciting, right?
But do you think that humans before that, I mean, in previous ages, were more connected to the divine, and it was self-evident to them that we were part of something bigger, and part of nature, part of Gaia, and all that? Was that?
I would like to believe that. You know, when you look at the well, first of all, the Maya, we can't, which is really interesting because what I found with all the deities related to the 13th sign, you know, Quetzalcoatl, Imhotep, Jesus, all of those people, we can't find them. So I consider them star seeds, meaning that they traverse in and out of the two worlds with their bodies intact, full memory intact. The Maya, we can't find their remains. So my belief is that they exited through the Shibaba.
The Maya, you mean the very ancient Mayans?
The very ancient Maya, yeah.
Because I mean, we have the Mayan culture still.
Yeah.
Some part of it, their descendants are still living in Mexico and Guatemala, yeah. And they were there when the conquistadors arrived in the 15th century. Right. So.
Yeah, but there was a disappearance. There was a mass.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, and if there's a mass decline, you should be able to find remnants in bones. That's the simplest way, right? We can find dinosaurs that are thousands.
Yeah, that's right. We only find their pyramids. We don't find their bones.
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah. So
cool.
yeah, so I believe that. Yeah, and if you look at the Egyptian temples and the dedication that went into the temple building, and the teachings of, especially in the tombs of the Amduat, the stars are important. Traveling through the stars in the afterworld, training in life on Earth as you're alive. Most of your training and studying is that point of when you leave your body. It's the Book of the Dead, right? When you leave your body and you go, that's actually the most important part of life, because you need to come back here again. That's the whole journey, is you're going through and then coming back. So I believe that, yeah, before the age of Pisces, I think maybe even before that, maybe it was even the age of Taurus. I think it's so my point was the zodiac belt. So the ages, I believe that you scan out, you can look at what ages the Earth is traveling through, and put your influence in that age. So the age of Pisces is separation from source. So I think at that time, this was, I guess you can call it the attack of what? You know, this other energy that didn't want Earth to unify with the great cosmos. It wanted to separate Earth. So this was the perfect time, the age of Pisces, because we separated from the source. Not only did we separate from the source, the similar energy of what happened with our musical scale, the notes of the 440 versus the 432.
Mhm.
Slight change of frequency
Yeah.
brings us out of alignment with true sound, true vibration. So I believe this is kind of what we're looking at, something along that level.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fascinating.
Hmm.
Because on the other hand, I mean, you spoke about us living a life with amnesia, and that's, I agree that we
Hmm.
have amnesia,
Hmm.
not only about the origins of humanity,
Hmm.
humankind, but also our amnesia about who we are ourselves as individuals. I mean, I
Hmm.
can't. Some people claim to have to remember previous life or parallel lives and things like that. I
Hmm.
personally haven't not gotten there yet, but
Hmm.
maybe one day, or
Right,
maybe
right.
at least when I transition, I will remember. Anyway,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
there is a, as you said, there is actually in a way a point in having amnesia and not remembering
Hmm.
exactly why you're here and exactly who you actually are. Because if we knew everything, if we knew exactly what's going on in the universal grand scheme of things,
Hmm.
we wouldn't probably learn anything here, because we would just like, okay, walk around and just wait for wait for our life to end so we can go back home or something.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's probably a point in us having amnesia, because we are supposed to have a little bit of struggle and learn things, and then when we go back home,
Hmm.
if we want to call it that,
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
have hopefully learned something, and can ascend maybe to another level or something like that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I subscribe to that 100%, and I think this is why there is a focus on reincarnation, or re, in a lot of the ancient civilizations, was because we had an understanding that we had to come to Earth, learn, repeat, come back, and grow as we're moving. I don't think that we have that in our society now, all over the globe. We don't
Indigenous
have this.
cultures, some of them have it, but
Yeah, yeah, we don't have this okay, we're here to do better. We're here to learn more. We're here to teach and uplift. We live in a we're pretty oblivious to all of that now. We actually make fun of that. Most
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
terrible. And
yeah,
that's yeah. So maybe this age that we're in right now is the most oblivious of all. We've
yeah,
had
exactly.
some modicum of oblivion all along, because that's the point of being here on Earth, that we shouldn't
Hmm.
remember how everything works, because we're supposed
Exactly.
to learn things. But
Hmm.
this age, we have even forgotten that there is a circular system
Hmm.
that we're part of. We've even forgotten that. We have
Yeah,
even forgotten that we're part of the universe, part of
yeah,
the Earth, even, which is totally crazy. It's insane.
yeah, yeah,
It's actually
yeah.
totally back, upside down, the whole thinking.
The whole,
Speaking of the West, the modern Western society, Western culture,
mhm.
not everybody and not all cultures, but the dominating culture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what concerns me.
Yeah,
This is why, yeah, this is why when you study the ancient cultures, they were all sky watchers, and they not only sky watchers as for fun. They actually, I mean, look at the Maya pyramids. They were built specifically to measure the conjunction of Pleiades and the sun at certain times of the year to mark the new year, and even certain pyramids at certain epochs of the great year. Right. So if you look at that book by John Major Jenkins, Cosmogenesis, he 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 talks about how the different pyramids at the different locations throughout the Mesoamerica align with the Sirius Pleiades conjunction, Pleiades Sun conjunction at a certain time, to show, because they were priests. The Sky Watchers were ancient priests that passed the lineage down to and that's how it was. That was the original esteem of a sky watcher. It wasn't just let's buy some telescopes and look around and hang out. This was like priesthood. This was
yeah.
priesthood. This is why the Vatican. This is what came around full circle. This is why the Vatican is totally in charge right now. They have this. Look up the Vatican Observatory Foundation and see all the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
They're in charge of a lot of what's going on in sky watching.
Fishy
A lot of sky watching. Yeah,
stuff going
yeah,
on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now this 13th sign then that the Egyptians knew about and that
Mhm.
every ancient tradition has in some way referred to, is that the point where we have the possibility to ascend to a higher dimension, a point that we haven't been able to see now, obviously, or be affected by during this
Mhm.
three-dimensional era that we're perhaps about to leave? Is this a portal? Is it a crossing point, do you think?
I mean, I believe 100%, and it's provable by facts, scientific facts, and that's what I like to do. Listen, I'm an astrologer, right? So I can't research forever, but once I found that NASA, and this was only recent. This is what I forgot to point. The crossing of Sagittarius dwarf galaxy with our galaxy was just discovered in, I think it was 1994. But somehow the ancients knew that we were. It's called literally in the Maya call it Shibaba, the crossing of two worlds, saying there's another world there, right there, right there's another world. It's the Lama, the Great Rift. And then we find out about it in 1994. So when I saw that, I thought instantly, okay, there is a portal there, and the SGRA star is a pulsar. If you study the work of Paul Laviolette, he has a book called Messages of the Pulsars, and he makes a case for these pulsars all over Earth, all over the universe, are not there sporadically. They are all marked specific points, and usually nebulas or some type of galactic outburst was once at this place, meaning that something came into us from that point. They mark all these pulsars. He makes a great case for that. Everyone should just read his book. But yeah, I believe that there is a portal there. It's that Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, which is probably where we come from. Might be the Pleroma. This might be where Christos, Sophia come from. And this might be the story that relates to this. What is it? This 36,000 year Anunnaki story,
Oh
where
yeah.
the Anunnaki were the ones who created us. I don't know how far I subscribe to that because that's been hijacked too. But there's supposed to be, we have creator beings that visit us or come close to us every, is it 3,600 years?
In what way has the Anunnaki story been hijacked?
Say it again? Why is it? Because it's more.
In what way has the Anunnaki story been hijacked?
Because there's a lot of movies being made about it. There's a lot of people that are claiming to be scholars of this, and then they discredit. What was the main guy that Zachariah Sitchin?
Sitchin, yeah.
Sitchin. They discredit him, and then they take. So there's a lot of information that is like people are claiming ownership of, and once you see that, I kind of step away from that, claiming like I'm the authority of the Anunnaki. Like, have you ever met them? Like, have you sat down and talked? No. So I get a little worried when I hear it, when I see that energy circulating around, authority of some belief system. But we're supposed to merge, or their planet is supposed, what is it called? Nibiru is supposed to be close to us every 3,600 years or 36,000 years. There's a number there, and I think that that's crossing over with this galactic merging that we have with the galactic Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. Because the merging of galaxies, it's like a breathing. It's like they breathe into each other. That's how they merge, because it's cyclical. So,
yeah, I once had I did a little short where I claimed that the universe is a loop. Do you think that this portal is a wormhole? What scientists have been referring to as a wormhole?
I wonder that, because there's something else I didn't bring up just yet. But another important part of the 13th zodiac sign of that location is we all remember December 21st, 2012, right?
Yep.
The Maya Baktun calendar was what number? Do you remember that number?
The 13th Baktun. Of course.
And it was supposed to be the end of the world, right? So if you look further at what is also there, it's connected with the Pleiades, which is why if you ever look at the Pleiades with your telescope or your naked eye, it looks like a lot of wispy clouds. It's a cloudy, nebulous
Yeah, it's very
space.
difficult to see with your naked eye.
Yeah,
Make out
yeah.
the seven separate
The seven
stars.
superstitions. Yeah. Well, here's a secret: if you don't have a telescope, you look with your skewed vision, so you kind of have to know where it is, and then just look slightly away, and you can see a fuzzy patch in the sky, and that's how you can see the Pleiades and this constellation of Taurus. And most people don't even realize this. I always surprise them. Pair of binoculars.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a big telescope. Just get a pair of binoculars, and you can see. You can stargaze with that. So you can see the Pleiades. You can see the rings of Saturn, maybe the moon, the dots, the moons of Jupiter. Most people don't realize
I
that.
definitely try that out because I haven't
Yeah,
thought about that. I
yeah.
have a pair of binoculars here.
You take them right out. You can see. So anyway, so I also found something there, which uh, falls exactly when the 13 Baktun ended. It's called the photon belt. Have you ever heard of the photon belt?
Yeah, vaguely. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we also pass that photon belt every 13,000 years, which is the cyclical, the 26,000 year cycle, the precessional cycle. They say there's so many different numbers, but they're small in variance. 25,920, 26. Sometimes you hear 24. There's different models with that. But there's a photon belt there. And it's known as photon is light, a belt of light. And we're supposed to have entered it in 2012. This is the whole Maya Baktun 2012. So what's really interesting is that, first of all, I like to look at what does science have to say about this. And science, NASA, says, yes, we are currently entering into a region of space that we didn't know what it was, but it consists of highly charged magnetic particles and dust particles. It's wispy clouds. And if you look at
So they corroborate that.
Yeah, put that together, that's the photon belt. We're entering into a photon belt. And what the ancients would say is that it's actually interacting with our sun. So our sun, which is the 13th sign, which is the Christos, is passing through this photon belt right at the time where the sun is also on the winter solstice rising in this location of the 13th zodiac sign. So it's all conversion. It's convergent on this one part. This photon belt, it's said to interact with our sun to create a higher charge and higher vibration for the humanity, for the humans on Earth when this happens. So then this ties into kind of a lot of the conspiracy stuff that's going on now, because we have, since 2012, the amount of chemtrails that have been covering our skies has increased. And we even had, and I don't want to get into this too much, but we've had vaccines that interact with our DNA. So there's a lot of questions around that, right? So we don't know what's going on. But since that time, we've been suppressing the energy that we should be receiving from the sun while we're in this photon belt that's supposed to be rising our consciousness or our vibration. That's also in the location of the 13th zodiac sign.
Yeah, I actually read. I'm interested in the climate issue,
Yeah.
and I read recently it's a very new study that came out. I think just a month ago or a couple of weeks ago, that kind of came to the conclusion that the emission of carbon dioxide. I mean, there are thousands of studies, as you know, but this was it was serious and very interesting.
Yes.
From my point of view, it said that the emission of carbon dioxide cannot account for more than just a tiny fraction of the heating that we've seen in the last 15 or 20, 25 years maybe, or something like that they had been studying. But the reason behind this increase is an increase of solar radiation because of lower albedo on the Earth. I mean, less cloudiness and things like that. And that's really, as you know, super controversial because everybody wants to convince us that it's our fault. We are doing this to ourselves, and we have to change everything in society in order to get out of this. This problem that we have. But so I mean, just relating to what you just said there,
Yeah.
about the photon belt and energy coming in from the sun. So maybe these are some of the reasons why we've actually seen this warming happening. So just sidetrack there.
Yeah, this falls into, and I don't have the exact specifics, but this falls into the ending of the age is often met with a cataclysm.
Yeah.
And I've heard that this cataclysm is going to be met with fire.
Okay.
And then it's going to be cooled. This is the story of the zodiac cycle. It's going to be cooled with the waters of Aquarius.
So when is this supposed to happen then?
Well, if you want to use real-time astronomy and look at when the sun rises on the spring equinox in the sign of Aquarius, we're looking at.
The problem is that they overlap. The fishes, as John Lash calls it, fishes and the water bearer, they overlap for 800 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I saw was 400 and somewhat years.
Okay.
Have until it's clearly, and that's using a program called Stellarium, which is free. Anyone can download Stellarium for free and do all of this. But it looks like 400 years. But then you also have all this astrology terms where when signs are on the cusp, 3 degrees on either side, you're looking at 6 degrees. Then you times all that by the numbers, you're still looking at about 400 years. So that's I'm thinking, and that's pretty short when you think about it in the terms of a 26,000 years.
Oh
cycle.
yeah, definitely.
It's not that much, but we are looking differently.
In human life, it's a lot, but
yeah.
So speaking of the universe and that portal, the 13th sign, the galactic center.
Mm-hmm.
And what significance that has for humanity and why we're here and what we're doing on this planet. What about the rest of the universe? What's the point of that?
Oh yeah. Well, wow. When you
is that just background or backdrop, or are there millions and millions of other planets with humankind like species having the same dance, the same game that we're playing here?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So
I don't expect you to have the full answer to that.
I'll tell you my experience. So first of all, there's something, you ever hear of the law of one when they talk about
Ra? I think the Egyptian god Ra came. Law of one.
Yeah, there's a story of that, but it's about this intergalactic. They started. Our universe was formed, and they were from Venus originally. And then there has been photographs that have surfaced from Venus that there are structures there with right angles. So that kind of connects with that. But again, you have to keep on looking. But there's something that they refer to as, it's called the harvest. When we are ripe, we harvest off of Earth to the next level of consciousness, or the next planet that has a different vibration. So that to me makes a little bit of sense, that we're on Earth. If we live righteously, or we live in the laws of, let's say, Ma'at. I study a lot of the Egyptian astrotheology stuff. So we live, and this is where the Bible comes from, and all these ancient scriptures originally were to give you the teachings of God's source, but then they've been corrupted. But my belief is, if you live in alignment, then you and astrology has something to do with it. You align so you can traverse through the Amduat, understanding stars, and your consciousness is there. Maybe we can be harvested before the next cataclysm comes, and we can leave Earth before being destroyed. There's something to that. My experience when being an astronomer and a stargazer, spending countless nights looking at galaxies 30 million light years away. There's millions of galaxies out there. When you look, it's like that scene from that movie, Contact. If there's no other living entities out there, it's a whole waste of space.
Literally
a whole waste of space. I mean, you can. And what's interesting, what I found, which ties into astronomy and astrology, is in the Virgo constellation, we have the most concentrated galaxies. It's called the Virgo supercluster.
Yeah, the Virgo cluster. Yes, I actually know a little bit about that because I studied astronomy some 15
Okay, you did.
years ago. So we had this little movie that we had to watch, and it took us out to the Virgo cluster.
Right.
It was so fascinating.
Interesting. Yeah. And she's known as the birthing mother. And in Egypt,
Okay.
she's related to the sky mother goddess. So she's the sky mother, the weaver. And then you look closer, the net, also neath, the weaver, the net. She weaved the net of creation. And then there's a cluster of galaxies there. So something is birthing in that place.
Mm.
So, yeah. And
yeah. Well, I'm thinking that maybe also this, I mean, the universe that we see with our, either we use binoculars or telescopes, is the physical universe, of course. And if there are other dimensions, there ought to be other dimensions of the whole universe, and there ought to be many universes. And maybe, I mean, I'm just speculating now. I agree that, but with what you're saying, that there ought to be other advanced is out there, because this physical universe that we can measure is so vast. But maybe it isn't that vast, or maybe it's just, you know, the way it looks when we calculate things and when we watch it. Maybe it's just not, because this is a philosophical question. Maybe there is, I mean, space-time is, you were talking about the Matrix before, and this is perhaps a simulation that we are in. And it's probably then supposed to be a simulation, because we're supposed to be in this physical world to learn things. And so it is a simulation, period. But you don't have to be scared about it. But it's the way it functions, which means that also the whole universe is also part of this simulation, because it's physical. What we can see is physical. So where am I going with this? Well, I guess, for instance, I've been pondering this idea about the Big Bang, and supposedly happened 13.8 billion years ago. By the way, I mean, why do you count that in Earth years? What's an Earth year when you go out 1,000 years in space? It doesn't make sense. So what's 13.8 billion years? That's one thing. And the other thing is that maybe it just looks like that when we measure and calculate these things. It looks, from our perspective, looks as if the universe started with the Big Bang 30.8 billion years ago. Maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe it's eternal. Maybe, I mean, time doesn't make sense. There was no Big Bang in that way. Maybe it's just something that we are supposed to perceive, if you see what I mean.
Right. And then we're giving the calculation tools to come up with that same calculation.
Yeah.
I mean, we're given all these tools of mathematics, and we're not experiencing them on our own. And you know,
exactly, we're not exactly. We can't feel that. We can just. I mean, it's like convincing people that there are biological robots, flesh robots.
Yeah.
But they can feel that they're not. Everybody can sense that they're not that. But then they kind of just acquiesce to that and believe that, oh, I'm just a flesh robot, and it's all about, you know, signal substance in my brain, and I'm nothing.
Yeah, that's the first sign of ill intent, is to quantify.
Yeah,
you know, we had to quantify our existence. Quantify. Peer review is what circulates in the scientific world. It has to be peer reviewed in order for you to speak about it. You know, I had a really famous astrophysicist tell me. I shared some information about the 13th sign, and he said to me, I don't want to say his name on the air, but he's one of the most famous scientists that you see, and I'm friends with his family, so I had a connection with him. And he says, if it's not peer reviewed, don't talk to me about it. It has to be peer reviewed. And I said, in spirit science, we don't peer review like you peer review. How we peer review is we allow ourselves the freedom to have the experience, and go the distance until we can't handle it anymore. And then when we come back from the journey, we speak to each other about our experience. And that experience is true, no matter if you believe it or not.
Exactly.
That's peer review. And he tried to say something else back to me. I didn't listen. I said, when you're ready to step up a bit, call me up. Your brother has my number. So we just need to step away from all this science that's telling us to quantify our experience. We know we are not mortal beings. We are immortal. We have to remember that. This is the whole 13th sign. This is a story of Ophiuchus, by the way. His mythical story is he was killed but honored because he was teaching the way of resurrection. He was teaching that you are immortal. You are either equivalent or close to God. This is what he's teaching. Don't be afraid of death. This is why he comes in between the realm of Scorpio. Because Scorpio's death, Ophiuchus' resurrection. This is why he's on top. So this is all of that story. And this is the story. If you start to look at, for example, Jesus Christ. Why was he killed? He was crucified. How do you kill the Son of God? How do you kill the one only person that's saying he's going to get us back home? How do you kill the guy? Right? We crucified him. Then we deify him.
Yeah.
Thousands of years later, he's deified. The same story with Imhotep. Imhotep is connected. He's deified as a god. 2,000 years later, he's known as a god of Egypt now. But here's a funny story, interesting story, is they all were born, their story, they were all common humans. Imhotep was born to common humans. I think Christ, right? He was a carpenter born to common humans. There weren't divine royalty being born on the throne. He
was Yeshua bin Yusuf or something. Son of Joseph.
Yeah. Son of Joseph, yeah. So they all have the story of we have recognized that we are greater than this mortal body. So what do? They get killed. Yeah.
And that's something that has to do with the age of Pisces.
Exactly.
Perhaps, like you said.
Yeah.
So Isaac, this has been a fantastic, fascinating conversation, and we could go on for hours, but maybe we should wrap this up, and maybe we can do this again someday.
Yeah.
There are loads of other questions to ask, of course, but where can people now find out more about you and your fascinating work?
Okay, go to my simple website, learnsiderealastrology.com.
Learnsiderealastrology.com.
Yeah. And then my other website is siderealastrologist.com.
Okay. Siderealastrologist.com, not astrology. Yeah, I tried the astrology version. I didn't work out.
Oh, yeah. I can give you those links too. Yeah. So those you can find me. And I teach courses. I do readings. I do talks like this, lectures. And we're going to Egypt again in October. And we're going to open up the doors to let people come with us for 2 weeks. I'm going for a month.
Are there still spaces left?
Yeah, there's still spaces. Maybe you might want to come. Yeah.
I can't do it, my friend. I'm sorry, not this year, but maybe one or two of the listeners.
Yeah. And we live like the locals, so we'll rent hotel rooms for.
Where will you be going?
We're going the whole trip. I'm going with my partner. We're going to reevaluate, restudy Nut, the sky goddess Nut, and Imhotep, and find more evidence of them in the temple, connecting with the sky. So we're going to. This trip is going to be interesting because we're going to start the way the ancient Egyptians used to start their initiation journey, which is way, way south in Upper Egypt, in Abu Simbel.
Yeah.
Which is where the Nile flows from. So it's the Nile journey. And then we're going to go that way and land in Cairo at the end. Most people go to Cairo first.
Yeah.
And that's another weird thing of matrix energy, because Cairo is a really disruptive energy. So you land and you get disrupted right away, and then your whole trip is that way. So we're going to bypass that and come the other way. And
that
then
sounds very wise. Wise decision.
Yeah, and then we're going to resonate that energy, and the resonant energy in the pyramid is off a little bit, which is why when you go to the king's chamber, you go in that sarcophagus in the king's chamber, and you do toning, it reverberates in the whole pyramid. You can hear it in the whole chamber. Yeah. So we're going to come back with that energy instead of the other way.
Sounds good. Yeah, one day I really want to go to Egypt again. I've been there, but I was 7 years old, so I can't remember very much. But I was actually in the Great Pyramid. But
it's 7.
Yeah, at
Oh.
7. So it's high time.
You know what that time is, right? 7, right? Do you know what
7.
7?
Well, it's the first cycle of something. It's
Saturn square.
when you start becoming a part of the matrix or something.
Astrological. It's the first Saturn square.
Oh, the first Saturn square. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been focusing on the Saturn return, but that's 28.
It's
So
the first Saturn
okay,
square.
first square.
So what happens is
important.
we'll want to talk quantum energy. Is your guardians try to get you to have a spiritual experience before the first Saturn square indoctrinated you. Yeah, that's why you went to Egypt. Nobody goes to
That's
Egypt.
why Bruce Lipton is talking about this all the time.
Yeah.
That you have to be anyway.
No one brings a 7-year-old kid to Egypt. They bring the 7-year-old kid to Disneyland or a theme park.
Yes,
You
right.
went
So
to Egypt.
I really need to go back.
Yeah,
Because I went to Peru a couple of years ago, almost
nice.
2 years ago, and that was fantastic. I was on a tour with Brian Forrester.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I saw all these, all the main sites, and Cusco and Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo, they were so fascinating. And it's so obvious to me that these places are, there are layers upon layers upon layers. And it's so obvious that the bottom layer often is so much more advanced and must have been constructed by some older culture. That's for another conversation.
Yeah. One more thing, and is a Tiwanaku, the sun god.
Yeah, we went there too.
He's a man holding 2 snakes.
Yeah, snakes again.
Serpent-bearer. Ophiuchus holds 2 snakes.
Ophiuchus, the serpent-bearer. Fantastic. Good luck now, Isaac, with your exploration of our connection to the stars.
Exactly, yeah. Well, keep in the loop for sure. Yeah, it was really nice meeting you and talking with you.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit that like button and share the video with your friends. Please support the channel if you can. I appreciate all the support. You can become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or you can make a one-off donation via PayPal if you wish. All the links are in the description box below. Thank you.